Okay, we just got done creating a bunch of blocks. We're going to create a couple of more blocks. You know the routine. Select template, come down to acad.dwt, select this as your option, and we wait for AutoCAD to catch up. Now remember, I'm running this in a virtual environment on one of the slower processors that's out there. It's great for portability, but it's decent on power, but it's really taxing performance to run it in a virtual environment. Okay, are we done? We're almost done. We're about there. Okay, type UN at the command prompt. And it's thinking. There we go. Change our working units or our units into architectural, so we're dealing with feet and inches. And I'm going to pan up here just so I know, just so I can tell what's going on. And I am going to start with a polyline, P-line, PL at the command prompt. And you can tell down here, it's stuff is still loading. Oh, there we go, PL at the command prompt. Oh, almost. PL, push return. There we go. And left click down here at the bottom, we're going to start at 0, 0, push return. Now, since we changed our units to architectural, we can actually specify feet. And as soon as I rubber band to get to the nice horizontal, my nice horizontal here, I'll type in 5 feet, push return. And I'm going to zoom out a little so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to move my cursor so it rubber bands to orthogonal, 90 degrees. I'm going to type in 2 foot 6, push return. Now I've got an option here. I could either key in exactly 5 feet, or I'm going to show you a little trick here. If I hold my mouse over that endpoint so my green snap point shows up, I have another orthogonal tracking, a reference track that I can use. So when I combine these two tracking elements, so it's the tracking starting from where I'm drawing to make sure I'm on line there, and then there's another tracking object that I did just by mousing over. Now if I mouse over it a second time, that track item goes away. If I mouse over it again, I've not left clicked on anything yet. There's no clicks at this point for this line segment. So I go until I see these two green lines intersect like that, and I can left click, and now I know those items are lined up. Now to close this polyline, I'm going to type CL at the command prompt and press return. I'm going to start my offset command, OF, press return. Set my offset distance to 2 inches. And I'm going to offset this rectangle to the inside. Okay, I'm done with my offset. I'll push return again. Excuse me. Now I want to modify this bottom edge of this inside rectangle. Oh, come on. There we go. And I'm going to zoom in just a hair. There we go. There's 2 ways I can do this, and I'm going to show them both to you. The first is by using the stretch command, so S for stretch, press return. I'm going to start on the right-hand side of the objects I want to select, click and release, and move my mouse to the left. And I'm going to move it down so that that green crossing window includes the vertices on the bottom edge of the inside rectangle, but not the bottom edge of the outside rectangle. So you can see how that's showing right now. Left click. I want to move this object I want to stretch this 2 inches. I can either click out in space. Oh, sorry, missed a spot. I'm done selecting my objects. Press return. So if I want to move this 2 inches, I I can left click out in space and just move my mouse up and key in 2 for 2 inches and push return. So that's one way that I can modify this. I can also use my stretch command, start on the right side, get the bottom edge of the inside rectangle but not the outside rectangle. I'm done selecting my objects and press return. Now I know my offset that I just used to create the inside rectangle was 2 inches, and I need to move that bottom edge another 2 inches. I can also snap, starting at this bottom point here, click, stretch up, the midpoint of that other bottom edge, and left click again, so I can do that. So that's 2 different ways I can use a stretch command, and I can input distances. The last way I can change this is Control Z to undo. So I can select my object. I can hold my mouse over this middle grip right here, and I'll get this context menu. I can select stretch, and I'm not limited to any direction. I can move this anywhere I want to, but I want to move my mouse up so it's constrained. It's rubber band that snaps on that orthogonal lock. I'll type 2 and push return. All of those things, it amounts to the same edits are taking place. So I'm done with this rectangle. Press escape, deselect everything. I'm going to make a fillet now. So F for fillet, not fillet. Fillet is meat. This is the fillet. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my radius. So I'm going to type R. And my radius is 3 inches. And I want to affect all 4 corners of this inside polyline at one time. So I will type P for polyline, or I can even come down here into the command line. I can click on that if I wanted to. I type P for polyline, and now I will select that object, left click, the command is done. All right. I want to draw a circle. And just like I was using, well, I'll show you what I'm doing, but I'm using what's called object tracking. So I'm going to hold my mouse here over the midpoint of this line so that green tracking line will show up. I have not clicked on anything yet. I'm going to move my mouse to the right. I'm going to leave it on that green dashed line that indicates that I'm perfectly horizontal from that reference point. And I'm going to type in the number 4. That starts my circle exactly 4 inches off the edge of that midpoint. I want my circle radius to be 1, and I'll push return. Okay, I'm going to draw another line. L for line, push return. And I'm going to start the line down in this corner. I'm going to hold over the mouse until I get that green line to show up. I have not left clicked on anything. I'm going to move my mouse to the right, and I'm going to enter 8 at the command line, press return, and my line is starting 8 inches away from that corner. I'll pan up a little so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to draw my line down a little bit. It really doesn't matter how much. Draw a line down. I'm done with that. You know what? I'm going to do this a different way. I'm going to go through that exact same sequence again just so that you can see it. L for line. I'm just going to hold my mouse over that corner so that that snap will show up. Move my mouse to the right. Remain on that axis. Type 8 at the command prompt, press return. I'm just going to go down some amount. This is a temporary line and it's going to be erased. So what this line actually is, excuse me, my goodness. So I'm just move this down a little bit. I'm going to drag my mouse to the right again. Type 1, just make 1 inch. And I want this line to come back up, and if it crosses, it's totally fine. So I'll cross that line. Left click. I'm done drawing lines. Press return. I want to mirror these to the other side of the tub, and by other side I mean over here. So MI for mirror. Press return. I'm going to select my objects. I'm done selecting my objects. I'll press return again. Now remember, we're going to draw the axis that these items are mirrored about. So I'm going to snap to my midpoint and left click, drag my mouse down, make sure I stay on that rubber band ortho line. And you notice if I move my line around that mirror axis is changing. So get back on that rubber band snap and left click. Do I want to erase my source objects? The answer is no. I'm going to accept the default, push return. Okay, now I'm going to draw another line. Again, I'm going to start at this edge over here. Hold my mouse over it for a second to get that object snapping to appear. Move my mouse down. Type 1/2. This will start my line 1/2 inch below that corner. And I'm just going to run it all the way across. If it overshoots, it's fine. This line is going to be erased. Oh, there we go. I'm back on axis now. Left click. I'm done selecting my lines, and I'll push return. Now I'm going to edit. See if I can zoom in just a hair. I'm going to edit this rectangle by modifying its vertices. So remember, if we hold over here, we could stretch. I'm going to add a vertex. So I haven't clicked on anything yet. I just mouse over that little rectangle in the middle, come down to edit vertex or add vertex. And I want to add one right here. Left click. I'm going to come back to this midpoint. I'm going to add another vertex. Come over here to this point. Where'd it go? Right there. And I'm going to add a vertex again. It's going to go right there. Add one more vertex. And it's going to go... I need to zoom in to see this and make sure I get that right. Right there at that intersection. There we go. I'm done modifying my rectangle. Click escape. Now I'm going to use a window instead of a crossing window. Notice only the objects completely inside have been selected. And I'll push delete. And you can see this is our bathtub. Control S to save. And call it bathtub. Alrighty, on to the next block.